policing structure. As a result, the Nigeria State Police Bill 2026 is arguably the most significant and symbolic constitutional reform proposal on security since Nigeria returned to democracy in 1999. However, the push for state police in Nigeria did not begin in 2026 or even in the Fourth Republic, and it is historically acknowledged that the strongest early advocate of state or regional policing was Chief Obafemi Awolowo. During the First Republic, which dates from October 1, 1960 to January 15, 1966, Nigeria had the local government police, native authority police, and regional policing arrangements due to the decentralized federal system. After the military coup of 1966, Nigeria moved toward a highly centralized system, leading the military government to abolish regional and local police structures and unify policing under a single national force controlled from Lagos and later Abuja. This centralized model was retained throughout military rule and eventually became established in the 1999 Constitution, which states that there shall be only one police force for the Federation. But over time, politicians, constitutional scholars, and security experts began arguing that the country's centralized police structure was inadequate for a nation as large and diverse as Nigeria. In 2014, delegates of the National Confab recommended the creation of state police as part of broader constitutional reforms, while in 2018, the Nigeria Governors Forum formally endorsed state police, and in 2024, the National Economic Council reported that a majority of governors supported state police, and also in 2025 to 2026, support became national rather than regional, with governors, traditional rulers, security experts, and the federal government largely aligning behind the proposal. And here we are today, more progress highlighted with the Nigeria State Police Bill 2026 to formally establish state police in Nigeria for the first time, thereby giving each of the 36 states and the FCT their own independent police structure, a course empowering each state to establish, maintain, and control its own police service. In light of this, the Nigeria Police Force has been renamed to Nigeria Police Service, all to reflect a transition from militaristic command-driven institution to a service-oriented civilian-focused one. The state police will operate alongside the Federal Police Service, formerly called the Nigeria Police Force, that is to say that to complement each other rather than be thought of as competing structures. In addition, the bill has the Nigerian Police Council restructured and strengthened, serving as the highest policy-making and supervisory body, although it doesn't directly control police operations. This composition brings together the President of the Federation, who serves as the chairman, the governors of each state, the chairman of the Police Service Commission, and the Inspector General of Police. To be effective, the State Police Service Council must be established by each of the 36 Nigerian states and chaired by the governor of the state, and must include the State Commissioner of Police to serve as secretary and a fusion of members, but to be determined by the state law. This council is effective in managing the state police while also setting policies and ensuring accountability at the subnational level. Perhaps one of the biggest conversations surrounding state police has always been funding, so the bill introduces a dual funding framework. The Federal Police Service would continue to receive funding through the Consolidated Revenue Fund of the Federation, with annual budget estimates presented by the President to the National Assembly. Meanwhile, state governments would bear responsibility for funding their own police services. It is noteworthy that supporters argue this encourages ownership and accountability, while critics on the other hand question whether financially struggling states can sustain modern police institutions with adequate salaries, equipment, logistics, pensions, and training. Speaking of appointment and control of police leadership, the bill also introduces a new structure. Inspector General of Police must at least be of Deputy Inspector General rank and will serve a non-renewable 4-year term. Similarly, the State Commissioners of Police will serve a non-renewable 4-year term, with the first-time appointment decided by governors, but a recommendation by the State Police Service Council and a confirmation by the State Houses of Assembly. The current Police Service Commission will remain, but exclusively supervise the Federal Police Service and create a decentralized personnel management structure for policing in Nigeria. The 36th state would establish separate state police service commissions with responsibility for recruitment, promotion, discipline, appointment and dismissal of state police officers. One of the strongest criticisms of state police has been the fear that governors could misuse police powers for political purposes, and in the bid to address this concern, the bill introduces several safeguards, and one of them is that neither the president nor governors can issue unlawful operational directives. Another is that each state would establish a complaint response unit to investigate allegations of police misconduct, but whether these safeguards prove sufficient remains a major subject of public debate. Likewise, the bill provides a detailed transition framework designed to prevent disruption to national security operations. The proposal says existing officers of the Nigeria Police Force will be transferred either to the Federal Police Service or their respective state police services. Existing ranks, pensions, and conditions of service would remain protected. The transition process will be completed within 24 months, and a joint Federal-State Transition Committee would oversee implementation. State Police Bill 2026 is more than a bill. It is a reimagining of how Nigeria governs, protects, and defines itself. As the debate moves from the National Assembly to the state, and ultimately to the Nigerian people, the future of policing in Nigeria hangs in the balance. The conversation has begun. History is unfolding. Olajumoke Oladunjoye, Agidigbo FM News.
The Nigeria Union of Teachers (NUT) has suspended its strike across the public schools in Oyo State, directing teachers to resume work on Thursday, 2nd of July 2026, following renewed engagements with the state government and assurances of enhanced security measures after the abduction of teachers and pupils in Orire local government area. In a statement jointly signed today by the union's Oyo State Chairman, Comrade Hassan Ajibola Fatai, and Secretary, Comrade Olukayode Salami, the union announced that the suspension followed a directive from its national leadership issued after reviewing the prevailing security situation and considering appeals from the Oyo State government and other key stakeholders. The union directed all primary, public, and secondary school teachers across the state to resume official duties from tomorrow, bringing an end to the industrial action that was declared in response to the kidnapping of teachers and students in Orire local government area. According to the statement, the decision was taken in the collective interest of teachers, learners, and the general public after the government assured the union that sustained efforts were underway to secure the safe release of the abducted victims and strengthen security around schools and surrounding communities. Now it is time to link up with our United Kingdom studio for the foreign news.
News from Pulamza Studio at Gidigbo FM. United Kingdom, I am Olushola Damlola. A patient has tested negative for Ebola after a suspected case was discovered at a hospital in Scotland. The patient is understood to have arrived at the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital's acute receiving unit yesterday. According to health officials, standard infection prevention control procedure were in places at the hospital and the risk to the public was low. Precautionary tests were carried out to confirm whether the individual contracted the disease, but late on Tuesday night, it emerged the patient was not infected. Public Health Scotland said there are currently no confirmed cases of Ebola in Scotland, as there are well-established protocols for assessing and testing travelers arriving in the United Kingdom from areas affected by Ebola. The United Kingdom has pledged up to £21 million to support the local response to Ebola in Democratic Republic of Congo, helping to protect frontline workers and vulnerable communities. Andy Boham said he will end the culture of breathing against female ministers. He promised to sack any staff who undermine women in his team. Speaking at a meeting of the Women's Parliamentary Labour Party in Westminster, Labour's female MPs had written to Boham before the meeting to ask him to commit to a 50-50 gender split for ministers and staff. However, Boham is likely to face pressure to appoint a high number of female cabinet ministers. And that ends the news from Pulamza Studio at Gidigbo FM. United Kingdom, I am Olushola Damlola.
Welcome back. We shall also be moving to our Maryland studio, United States, For more foreign news.
News from Kule Amzat Studio, Gidigbo FM, United States. I am Oluwatosin Sonya. The United States and Iran held technical talks in Doha on Wednesday as they seek to agree on the flow of shipping through the Strait of Hormuz and secure a lasting ceasefire, according to an Iranian official. U.S. President Donald Trump's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and envoy Steve Witkoff met the Prime Minister of Qatar, a mediator in the talks, alongside Pakistan, to lay groundwork for the negotiations, but would not be attending the discussions themselves. The talks are based on a 14-point interim accord signed last month that was meant to halt the war that began with U.S.-Israeli strikes on Iran in February and reopened the Strait of Hormuz while setting up 60 days of negotiations for a permanent peace deal. However, the U.S. and Iran have sparred publicly over the meaning of the interim pact, leading to tit-for-tat military strikes over the past week. Traffic has partially resumed through the strait, which handled 1/5 of global oil and liquefied natural gas trade before the war. South African police said more than 900 people were arrested following nationwide anti-migrant protests on Tuesday. While most demonstrations were peaceful, some descended into violence, looting and other criminal activity. Deputy National Police Commissioner Tibelo Musikili told the press conference that 120 marches took place across the country, with 108 remaining peaceful. Police intervened in 12 protests after unrest broke out. Those arrested included undocumented migrants accused of violating immigration laws, as well as individuals facing charges of public violence, harboring undocumented migrants, and robbery. The marches were organized to coincide with a self-imposed deadline set by an anti-immigrant movement demanding that undocumented migrants leave South Africa. The protests followed months of anti-migrant unrest that has drawn international criticism, with foreign nationals forced from their homes and their businesses and property targeted in attacks. And that ends the news from Kuliamzat Studio, Gidigbo FM, United States. I am Oluwatosin Sonya.
And now the exciting world of sports. The Nigeria Premier Football League (NPFL) was set to return in late August after officials tentatively approved the weekend of 27th to 29th of August as the kickoff date for the 2026-27 season and will run until 28th of May 2027. The proposed start date was agreed during a joint stakeholders meeting in Abuja involving the National Sports Commission (NSC), the Nigeria Football Federation (NFF), the NPFL leadership, and club owners as plans gather pace for the upcoming domestic campaign. The schedule also accommodates fixtures for the President's Federation Cup in a move aimed at delivering a more organized and predictable domestic football calendar. To wrap up the news this evening, here is a recap of the headlines. President Tinubu defends NYSC reforms, says scheme must meet today's realities. Oyo NUT suspends strike, directs teachers to resume work Thursday. Patient tests negative for Ebola after suspected case in British hospital. United States, Iran enter technical talks to secure peace deal, shipping restart. NPFL 2026-27 season set for August kickoff with historic ₦1 billion champions prize money. And before we go this evening, here is a quick tip. The most difficult thing is the decision to act. The rest is merely tenacity. Finally, we have come to the end of the news around the world on Agidigbo 88.7 FM Ibadan, the most listened to radio station. I am Wuraola Yusuff. Thank you for listening. Good evening.
News is information, and information is power. At Agidigbo